eating, and I don't want to interrupt that. Please continue eating, and please don't hesitate to get up and grab a dessert, or even two, if you like. There's still plenty over there. I just thought it would be nice to get our program started. I wanted to welcome you all here. We're so very pleased that so many of you were able to come out and join us here this evening. It's really lovely to see. I don't know about you all, I'm so tired of this COVID stuff, right? And it's so nice to be able to gather together and celebrate women, right? It's Women's History Month, and so here we are. The funds that we've raised this evening are going to go to supporting the Giving Circle Fund. And that's a fund that was established by this fabulous group of women. They all have a philanthropic streak to them, and a general interest in supporting the arts and mentoring and social service programs and activities to help students here at OU Chillicothe. So these ladies have been instrumental in making this evening happen tonight. So I just wanted to take a moment to recognize them. It's just going to be real brief, but we've got Joyce Atwood here. Jody River. And Sandra Chrisman. Marsha Austin is also a member. Lisa Bernstein. Sue Schwartz. Ann Salamoni. Susan Cunningham. Laura Winery. Nancy Robertson, and Nancy McCarter. So really, they really do deserve a wonderful round of applause. So thank you all. Tonight is our celebration of Women's History Month, and we are thrilled to have an artist and family historian, Lynn Carden, here as our featured speaker this evening. We're also going to be honoring a number of other women with a variety of awards. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the program that is at all of your place settings. That outlines tonight's activities, and it also has information about the honorees. Within it, too, you're going to see a yellow piece of paper. And what that is we're already, believe it or not, thinking about next year. We'd like to make this an annual event if we could. And so we'd like to gather some ideas from you all, if you're game, to fill out that sheet. If so, feel free to put down your thoughts, and then all you need to do is just leave it at the table. We'll come around and pick it up later. But we sure would appreciate your ideas there. So in 1987, Congress proclaimed March National Women's History Month and granted this status in perpetuity. This was the result of a long labor, a very long labor of many supporters of women's accomplishments and rights over a period of decades. As a result of this congressional act, and because of this substantial effort, a presidential proclamation is made every year honoring the outstanding achievements of American women nationwide. In our own small way, here in OU Chillicothe, we'd like to echo this praise and recognition for the special contribution and the extraordinary work women do for us locally. So it's in this spirit we would like to recognize a number of remarkable women this evening. First up is the winner of the spring writing contest that had the prompt, Visionary Women, Who Inspires You? To bestow that award, I'm going to ask that Deb Nichols come up. Deb is an associate professor of instruction in English on our campus, and she, along with Lisa Wallace, Craig Kyer, and Rob Motes, helped devise this contest to honor the talents of our students at Ohio Chillicothe. Her essay is also featured in your program.
Thank you, Dean Milligan. It is such an honor to be here this evening to celebrate women with so many women I admire in our community and so many women I get to work with each day, including our students. Several of these students are sitting at my table this evening. A couple are scattered out in the pleasure and an honor to sponsor a writing contest where they can choose the woman from the community that inspires them. So this evening, I'd like to honor our contest winner, Annabelle Justice. She is a communications major graduating this fall. I have an award here for you and a small monetary gift. And she does have an essay, and it is printed in the her ring, and I hope you enjoy it. I've asked her to maybe share a couple words, so please.
Hi everyone. It has been a very long time since I have spoken at a writing university, and it feels really good to do that. When I wrote this essay, I honestly didn't think anything would come of it. I just wrote it for the contest, and because must have been feeling particularly empowered that evening, considering it's Women's History Month. When I got the email that I won, I was absolutely ecstatic. Megan's here with me right now. That's who I wrote the essay about, and she's an extraordinary woman, and all of you are as well. And I can see a few more in the crowd who have also impacted my life, and I would just like to take this time to just thank you guys for everything that you've done for me, and I'm so thankful that I was able to be here this evening.
Thanks, Steph, and congratulations again, Annabelle. We're also celebrating a number of other women in our community, 8 to be exact, who have made noteworthy and important contributions to the vitality of our city and our region. The women we are honoring tonight were actually selected in those glorious days before the pandemic hit us. So we've waited a very long time indeed to properly recognize and honor them. And it's a pleasure to, at long last, do it tonight. Though each has contributed in different ways, they all share a common fortitude and commitment to bettering our community and making a difference through their dedication and professionalism. They serve as trailblazers, mentors, and role models to us all. Indeed, their wonderful accomplishments are why we have called them visionary. It is a true privilege then to pay tribute to them. Their complete bios are in your program, so if you'd like to follow along and read up on their accomplishments, you may. If the honorees, though, would please stand when I say their names, I'll come out to you with your award. So the first up is Carolyn Alt.
I always like to be in the background, so this is very well appreciated. I'd rather be running around these tables for you guys. Oh.
Our second awardee is Diane Carnes.
Then when I saw all the women that I am with and have worked with and done things with, I was more honored. So thank you so very much. Thank you.
Kathy Dunn.
Thank you very much.
Tony Ed. Thank you, Tony. And Bart Henshaw.
2 years ago about this. It was about the League of Women Voters and the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage. And so this is really a we award. This is really, about women's right to vote. And there's still plenty to prevail. Thank you.
Beth Neal.
Thank you so much, such an honor. Thank you. Congratulations.
And Margaret Clanton.
Thank you so much. I'll make at least a brief comment of one thing I find so important is that we mentor younger women to be, an example of how to move forward and keep going and just get the ERA behind us and work for the future of all of us.
You might become mayor.
Yeah.
Terry Tutt is our last awardee. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us today. She's out running a track event or something, as you would imagine, right? But she's here in spirit, she reports, so we'll be sure to get her award when she returns. So last year, we started another tradition here at Ohio Chillicothe by establishing an annual honor called the Woman of Distinction Award. This award was to recognize a member of the Ohio Chillicothe or Ross County communities who has made significant contributions in supporting, raising awareness, and or promoting women and gender issues. Last year's recipient was Joyce Atwood, who is with us here this evening again. So I think she missed out on the dinner portion, so maybe we can at least give her a round of applause. So here to present this year's recipient of the Women of Distinction Award is Karen Corcoran, who is an Associate Professor of Instruction and Education, and Lorna Buskirk, our Educational Program Assistant.
Good evening. I know, Marge, you were the mayor, but I think Joyce is the governor. It's a good day when you're in the room with Joyce Atwood. So on behalf of the teacher preparation programs here at Ohio University Chillicothe, it was easy to recommend our colleague Jennifer Domo for the award for Women of Distinction. Jenny is a world-class teacher and a valuable asset to our campus and to the Patton College of Education. But most importantly, she's an asset to the students she serves as their instructor. She raises the bar on our campus by collaborating with education stakeholders to create and maintain outstanding course content that prepares our teacher candidates to be leaders in the early and the middle childhood education fields. She has influenced strong partnerships with research-driven best practices in our region, which has been showcased at national conferences as well. She's been published in national publications. Women are underrepresented in STEM fields, a trend Jenny works to overcome with her work with children and adults. Jenny is an outstanding role model for women as she is nationally recognized as an outstanding educator in the STEM arena. Jenny challenges, promotes, and models to young women excellence in the STEM fields, especially math, science, medicine, and engineering. Her best practices in teaching has led the way for young women to excel in STEM competitions, science fairs, leading to careers for women in STEM technologies. The program called Scopes at Union Elementary School, which Jenny created, she leads, and has pioneered, has encouraged and identified talented and gifted girls and boys to explore STEM curriculum in value-added, hands-on learning. You'll have to go see her lab sometime. Jenny is an early adapter in curriculum changes that often lead curriculum committees to ensure that new curriculum is embedded in research and meets the ever-changing multimodal needs of young learners, as well as our teacher candidates. She was instrumental in new course designs in our math curriculum here at Ohio University, where she now challenges our math candidates to be problem solvers and critical thinkers. She embeds her courses with current technology, and this is one of her strengths, using technology to enhance instruction, advising, and mentoring. Jenny teaches math methods in a way that supports students not only to teach math, but to address their own perceptions of themselves as mathematicians and overcome anxieties and self-doubt. Jenny has a can-do attitude that has given other professionals opportunities to engage in similar activities, not only to contribute to the field, but allows those professionals opportunities for personal and professional growth. I have benefited from her support, encouragement, and vision, joining with her to investigate, create, present, collaborate, and bring life to those products or ideas that benefit educators, women, and teacher candidates. I have never met anyone like Jenny. She's generous with her time, talents, and treasure. She knows how to be a team player, even though she's better suited to be the leader. Ohio University is a better place because of Jennifer Domo. She's chosen to do some of her best work here. It benefits children, our teacher candidates, and students studying other disciplines, professional educators, stakeholders in the education program. My colleague, Dr. Amy Wolf, couldn't be here tonight because she's actually teaching a class. But she writes that Jenny has impressed, this is Amy's words, Jenny has impressed me in countless ways in her role as an early childhood and elementary education program at Ohio University. She teaches our math methods course and hosts our teacher candidates in her own classroom. Jenny has been instrumental in establishing and furthering the development of our university connections in her district. She is a woman of distinction because she supports so many girls and women in achieving their goals. Jenny's classroom is alive with STEM activities that push her students to explore career possibilities and they may not otherwise have considered. She is beloved by teacher candidates and in the teacher preparation program faculty colleagues because she embodies the creativity, innovation, integrity, and accountability of our professional demands. It's for these reasons and more that we proudly nominate Jennifer Domo for the 2022 Woman of Distinction Award.
Behind every successful woman, many other ladies that are behind them and cheering for them and supporting them. So it's not just me, it's all of us together. Thanks again.
Thank you, Karen and Lorna, and congratulations again, Jenny. I've been a fan of Lynn Carden's paintings for a long time now, and of her wonderful memoir and history covering the extraordinary lives and times of Robertson Place, her home, and that of 8 generations of her family lineage. It's a remarkable tale of our local and regional history. The book itself is a work of art. It's beautifully adorned with illustrations and photos that Lynn has carefully drawn or collected. The women of Robertson's Place, we get a clear sense of how much the author loves her family and how interesting, adventurous, smart, resourceful, and wonderfully human all of her distant relatives were. They really come alive for us in the pages of Lynn's book. But for me, what is truly inspiring about Lynn's book is that at the same time that she relates the story of her ancestors, she is also telling the fascinating, rich, and important story of our region, including Bourneville and Chillicothe. The same attention and care she pays to describing her indomitable women in her family, she pays to the landscapes and the settings that sustain them. With the women of Robertson's Place, then, we are also adding to our own histories. For in understanding the development of the setting in which we live, work, and raise our own families, we are deepening our understandings of ourselves and strengthening our connections to others. These are the gifts of a well-written history. I'm so very pleased to now turn things over to our featured speaker this evening. Please join me in welcoming Lynn Carden.
Are we live? Where's my assist? Where's my gal who's gonna turn it up if she's the gal? Marilyn.
Oh, she went out to take her exam.
Oh, okay. I hope this thing works. Okay, very good. Well, I'm very honored to be here tonight. Let's see, maybe we can move this back a little bit. I need to see these lovely gals. Thank you. Oh, that's much better, because I do tend to wander around a little bit when I talk. It's really an impressive assemblage here tonight. And as I said, I'm very honored to be the featured speaker and to be invited to this event. And I want us to give a round of applause for Roberta Melton. Great idea. And yet, as wonderful as this evening is, and all these people who are here, I found it a little bit shocking that we are needing to do such a thing as this in the 21st century. I see some of you nodding. It seems as though we're quite modern at this time, and that women are involved in government and medicine and all kinds of fields, athletics, but we do need evenings like this. And this is going on, by the way, not just here, but in all over Ohio, in our nation, and in other parts of the world. And Women's History Month has a theme each year. In 2015, the theme was writing women back into history. That's kind of what my book is about, and some other institutions have taken this to heart. I don't know if any of you have noticed the New York Times newspaper has started a new series of obituaries. What am I doing? That's not working. I don't need that. Okay. The New York Times has started a new series of obituaries about women. It's called Overlooked No More. They started this newspaper in 1851, and since that time they have published 3 obituaries every day. Not women, men. For almost all this time it has been men, and of course they have been white men, no surprise. Same thing with Chillicothe Gazette. But now they have changed their tune. They have realized that so many deserving women were ignored in this column. And they publish, from now and then, a woman from history who has been made an outstanding contribution to our society. They've been very interesting to read. The editor of the obituary column explained the omissions over the years of his newspaper this way, and I'm going to quote from him. Those who make news in life are those whose death makes news. And when you think about that, of course, that's true. If you have been in the news a lot during your life, people are going to want to know when you die, and they're going to want to read your obituary. So this is in a way, an explanation of why women were not included, but why were they not included? And he goes on to explain because the avenues toward greatness were closed to many of them for all those decades. They could not enter the halls of Congress. They were not allowed to pursue athletics, et cetera, et cetera. I don't need to tell this very educated audience the history of women's attempts. But at least they're making amends now, and it's a very interesting series. Something else has happened much more recently. In 2019, just 3 years ago, David McCullough published his history called The Pioneers. Some of you are recognizing that. He's one of the country's most popular and prolific historians. And he wrote about Marietta, just down or up the river from us. Marietta was the first settlement in the Northwest Territory, settled just before Chillicothe. And he wrote a history of the pioneers who came from the East Coast, from prominent families, to start a settlement in this vast wilderness. There were men and women who came. However, when he went to Marietta to do research, he was astonished to find rooms full of primary source information about the men who came here to settle Marietta. There were letters and diaries and newspaper articles that had been written back home, no photographs, this would have been before photography. But he was just astonished. His work was almost complete because it was just laid out before him. But Mrs. McCullough had come along for the trip. And near the end of the visit, she said, "But where are the women? We know women came with the men who settled Marietta." He said, explained in his preface, "I would love to have included women in this history, but we have nothing about them. There were only a couple of letters left by the daughter of one of those pioneers." Now, why is this? It's really hard to explain. There could be a lot of reasons, and I just want to cite something that was really astounded me. Queen Victoria, who reigned, as you know, for many, many decades, I think she was the longest reigning queen, and ruled half the world, and had 9 children during her reign. She kept her diary. She kept the diary every day. Where were those diaries? Recently, her biographers had discovered that they were destroyed. They were destroyed by her heirs, who thought it would be embarrassing for her personal diaries to be revealed. They had a lot of things about her 9 pregnancies and rearing children. Oh, people wouldn't be interested in that. That's not queenly. We don't want the world to know about that. And they were destroyed. Think what a loss that was. Now, I'm not suggesting that that happened to the pioneer women, but things have happened, and for many reasons, we just do not have enough information about our forebears, our female forebears. So we're hoping to make a little difference and change from now on. Now, to hear me talk, you might come to the conclusion that I'm a feminist, and I'm not really. I'm not a raging feminist. I don't think, I'm not blaming anybody for this. But the fact remains, our history, as we have received it, is not accurate. It's simply not accurate because we don't have the whole picture. So my book was a little attempt on my part to use the material that I had about a relatively insignificant family, but to enter women into our historic family. Now let me take you back. Let's go to the year 1982. I'm 40 years old. My mother has just died. I am now realizing that I knew that I was going to inherit the homestead, but I'm now going to be responsible for it. I am living in Cincinnati, Ohio with my family, 2 daughters, husband. And we're still 75 miles from this farm homestead. We go there on weekends. I have been taken there since I was a baby in arms, since I was an infant. But we just go there to enjoy it. I didn't know anything about the workings of it or the history of it. And so it's slowly dawning on me as I get over the shock of my mother's death that I have to step up to that. So I began learning about how to run the farm. My father's still living, but his health is precarious. And I started thinking, when I'm alone at the farm, I spend a lot of time alone there because it's my muse, my artistic muse. I started wondering about my grandmother, my great-grandmother, my great-grandmother. My grandmother, by the way, died when I was 4 years old, so I didn't get that history either. And maybe I was kind of a convert, because I didn't know the history. My mother didn't really tell it to me. So I became more and more curious. My mother was kind of a private person, and she dearly loved this farmhouse. We all loved it. We came and spent holidays there, a good part of the summer. You know how a vacation home, you just love that. You think you want to live there. This is the way we all felt about the farm. But the unusual thing about this homestead was that nobody had moved out since the Civil War. When Martha and Robert Robertson bought the house and moved into it, they started leaving. It started being left down through the women, not by design, but just by circumstance. And nobody cleared out the drawers, nobody moved anything out. I thought this is the way everybody lived. It was odd, but here were the antiques and the trunks full of old clothes. As a child, I used to dress up in the top hats and put on the high heels and the wedding dresses, my grandmother's carvings and paintings were around. I didn't even know she had done them. I was really an innocent. But things were about to change. The farmhouse had a little an aura to it. I don't know how to explain it. You kind of had a feeling that there had been dramatic things happening in that house. But I didn't know the stories. However, when I was about 13 or 14, I was sketching one afternoon, probably at an art assignment, and my father walked into the room. "What are you doing?" he said. "I'm sketching this little fancy urn that was sitting on top of the mantelpiece." He said, "Do you know what's in that urn?" "No." He said, "Those are the ashes of a little boy, an 11-year-old boy who drowned in Paint Creek, and he would have been your uncle. So that made an impression. And then a little bit later, my father walked through the bedroom where I was spending some time, the second story bedroom. He said, "Did you know that your great aunt Virginia climbed out of the window and down a ladder and ran off with a local boy?" Well, I hadn't known that. And then a few years later, my father was a historian. He had a degree in history, and so it was kind of interesting. He was really the only one that was telling me these things, of course, after my mother died. He said, "You know that handbell that you like to clang around to call people to a meal?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "That handbell," he took me out to a pasture on the side of the hill, and he said, "Your great-grandmother, Marguerite, used this handbell to warn the runaway slaves who were being harbored in the cabin on the other side of the creek." That's the first time I'd ever heard anything about that. I later was to find that my great-great-grandfather Robertson was a superintendent on the Underground Railroad. But I knew nothing of this at the time. And as a matter of fact, by the time I was 40, which is the time period I'm talking about, I didn't want to hear about it because I was busy getting my career going as a painter. I was spending all my free time doing painting and getting that going on, setting shows. And I really didn't have time to stop and do the research that I needed to do and to start writing these stories down. But all of this changed when my daughter, Jenny, burst in the door from home from college. She was a junior going into her senior year, and she was a film major at Northwestern. She burst into the door and said, "Mom, I got to do a film documentary on the farm and all the stories." And she's a ball of fire, very determined. So there was no fighting this. I just dropped everything, and the two of us spent the summer looking through the drawers and the cupboards and the family Bible and trying to piece together some of these stories. Very early on, she said, "What's in the attic?" I said, "Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I kind of had crawled around there a few times, but I didn't know." And she said, so we went up to the attic over this summer kitchen, and there were a couple of trunks. "Trunks, Mom? What's in the trunks?" I said, I don't know, I don't want to know." Because when we open those trunks, I know that I will have to start dealing with all these old things, some of which were, I'm sure would be covered with mildew and silverfish and all kinds of things like that. Well, we did open the trunk, and we found the remnants of a life. It was really, really moving. It was probably one of the most dramatic days of my life. I found the wedding gown of my grandmother. I found a pair of boots that my great-grandfather had worn in his Civil War days. He was a boy soldier. I found a little diary that he carried in his pocket. And this is sad because he was captured and was imprisoned He escaped, but he also contracted TB in that prison and died at age 27. So these were the stories that I didn't know yet, but these were the little elements that we're going to feature into my future. I also found a little, letters tied in silk ribbons, a little purse that had a snippet of hair in it, a little tiny, tiny purse. And I thought, I didn't know whose hair it was, but I figured it was important because it had probably been carried around for the lifetime of whoever was trying to remember it. So these were the things that I knew. Once Jenny finished her documentary, it was a 36-minute film. And it's, by the way, it's in the Historical Society here. But once she had finished, gone back to school, I knew there has to be a book, and there isn't anybody else to write it but me. So I knew what was ahead of me. Now, genealogists tell us that it's very, very difficult to trace women. I don't know, have any of you tried to write or to research your family's history? You can do it now online. That was not available to me. But it is very difficult because our names change usually. Maybe you women, if you're going to get married, you're going to keep your maiden name. I know one of my daughters did. But that's one of the things that makes it very difficult. Also, of course, women don't sign documents. They can't be found in Kathy Dunn's records very often. I came into your office. But I didn't need all of that because it was right there under one roof without anybody moving out. They had saved all the letters. They had saved the diaries. And thank goodness they did. I'm sure that there was a lot thrown away. If you're going through your parents' or grandparents' house and you see stuff that you don't want your kids to find out about, you're going to throw it away. So I'm sure that I didn't have every last shred of evidence here. But I had a number of letters, important letters, diaries. We opened a family Bible. There were all the dates of the births and deaths. I'm not saying that this wasn't work to put together, but I had an awful lot of primary sources. It's really a historian's dream. So I began to put these things together, and one of the things that was really crucial was a letter that I found from, get this letter was written by possibly the first or almost the first little girl baby born in the Ohio Territory, because it was Ada Benson Haller. And she wrote this to her, she's a relative, not straight down, but she wrote it to my great-grandmother, who was her favorite niece. She told about the family history. So with that, I went into the Historical Society here in Chillicothe and began to do some research with Pat Leonard. Fabulous resource for our region. She's the archivist. She's I think maybe 95 now. She's still working, volunteering at the Historical Society. Talk about a woman who deserves an award. She would be one, wouldn't she? Anyway, she helped me flush out the background behind these people and helped me nail down some of the things that I thought I was finding out about my ancestors. For one thing, we learned that this would be the fourth great grandmother, came to the Ohio Territory with her. She was 27 years old when she left Virginia with her 23-year-old husband. Didn't know that. She came, these were very similar to the pioneers in the Marietta scene. They came from families who were educated and had money. They were not running away from anything. They were seeking adventure and a new life and free land. And this Mary Williams Benson Haller and her husband came in 1796. The women, the few that came along, stayed in the fort, Massey Station, while their husbands helped survey the land. And after 3 years, when the men were done and they were ready to start to move in to settle, she had had 3 children. She had a baby girl, the Ada that I just mentioned, and toddler boy, or twin boys, who were toddlers by the time she came into Ohio. So here she is, baby in arms, toddler boys, and a young husband, and they settled on Route 50 on Paint Creek, where Blaine Highway comes into Route 50, right along the shores of Paint Creek. They put up a shanty. I should mention that George's brother and sister-in-law came too, so there were 4. The 2 young couples. They built a 3-sided shanty, lined them with bear skins, and spent the winter before they could build a cabin. Now talk about an adventurer and brave people. She went on to live, this Mary Benson Haller, she went on to deliver 9 more children. They all lived to adulthood, and she died at age 92. I wish I had her picture in the exhibit room, but she died before photography was invented. So I don't have a photograph of her. But you can imagine by now I'm amassing a lot of stuff, a lot of dates and facts, and I went through 200 years of Chillicothe Gazette to kind of flesh out the other things that were going on in Ross County, and then because I wanted to fix these women in their times, I needed to learn more about the times. By now, I realized I had to have a timeline. I had to figure out some way to organize this. So I went down to Chillicothe on 2nd Street to our little stationery store. I don't know if any of you remember that. And I bought a big roll of white paper and pinned it up to a room that I now started calling the history room in our house. So this timeline went all the way around the room. And then with a magic marker, I divided it in half. Above it was going to be the locations. So I would have Ross County, where the farm, Ross County, Ohio, the nation, the world. Dividing it up by decades, 10 years at a time. I'm going to have this timeline cover 200 years. The bottom half would be the individuals. And by the time I was done, there were 23 of them. They'd start like Mary Benson Haller would be down at one end. She would go all 92 years. And then I'd have a little cross for her death. And so all the individuals were noted on the bottom half. Then I started filling in events. In Ross County, for instance, in the 1970s alone, just that one decade, we had locusts, a plague of locusts, droughts, and floods. We had, let me see here, I have little notes here. We had an epidemic amongst the horses were the horse people. Did you know that there was an epidemic in the 1872 that spread very quickly in the horse population, which would have been huge, brought transportation to a halt. You didn't do anything without the power of horses back then. Just think about that. In the nation, Custer's last stand would have happened in that 10-year period. The invention of the telephone, the invention of the record players. So I would fill these things in that I thought might have impacted the lives of my ancestors. Then I would also note the sweeping trends. For instance, Victorian prudery was setting in. There are a few other things that I can't. Oh yeah, there was also the panic of '73. Banks closed down. Oh, and gloom and doom. Americans thought that the country was going downhill. They predicted gloom and the end of this great nation's history. Well, so filling out that timeline was quite fascinating, and this is where my husband came in, because he's also a historian, and he wanted me to stay by the straight and narrow. He wanted me to document everything, annotate everything, and he also was busy transforming the photographs from the early tintypes all the way to the modern times. He what would you say? He fixed them up. A lot of them had a lot of blemishes, and enlarged them, and did all the digital things that are very important. So I had 23 people on this timeline, and 200 years. It took me about 10 years to do the research for the book. Now that I'm not doing it 9 to 5. You understand? I'm painting every day, and I've got a household to run in Cincinnati. So anyway, 10 years was what it took. But then I started the writing. And the writing took me another 10 years because I wasn't a writer. So you can appreciate that. My mother was an English teacher at Ohio State. But, you know, how daughters and mothers are. I didn't learn that much from her. I probably absorbed it. But anyway, I wanted to read like a novel, and I thank you for commenting, Roberta. I knew that, you know, why would you be interested in reading somebody else's family history? So I knew it would have to have some drama to it, which it did. The stories provided the drama, but I would have to write it like sort of like a novel. And yet I had to stick with the facts. Never did I deviate from the facts. So I didn't call it fiction. And then at the end, I had to create a bibliography and then an index, and that's just tough, hard work. I didn't mention the artifacts that were discovered along the way. In the drawers, and the closets, and the cupboards, I found not only the clothes that I was mentioning, but dolls and, oh gosh, a lot of things. And I thought some of them were rather lovely. They appealed to me. There were a lot of quilts, for instance, beautiful quilts. And so I started to illustrate them because, of course, I was painting every day, so why not? And I illustrated them, and they became part of the book. But in the book, they're tiny, tiny little things. So I thought you might enjoy seeing the originals of the illustrations, and that exhibit is right around the corner to the left here. And as well as some photographs. You'll find some photographs, thanks to Doug, of the various women. I wish that I could have included Mary Benson Haller and her daughters, who became settlers, first generation pioneers, second generation settlers, and on. But they lived before photography. So we start with Martha Robertson. And let's see, I think I have covered it. What questions might I entertain? Would anybody have a question about this writing of a history? Are any of you doing work? Yes.
I go through all around and big group.
You do?
You had told me to make levels, and I'm picking that.
Yeah. Yeah, and as I said, I divided it up into decades. That's the way you can, and then you can start putting it together. And and after I got all that done, you don't have to do this, of course, but I decided that I would create a chronology for each member, so that I would actually have a page of, born, when they, all the events in their life, so that would, so that came next. And then the writing, then you've got to really, the writing is tough. But if you're doing it 20 years, if you're doing it for your family alone, it can just be the facts, it can just be the chronology. Really. Yeah, well, I didn't know whether my family would even want to read it. Some people have no interest in this. So I decided to do it for a wider audience because that's what we've just been talking about. We don't have the histories of women, even though these women didn't write the great American novel, didn't set the world on fire, but somebody someday might learn something from their lives. Anything else? Yeah.
What do your children think of this venture?
What do they think of?
Of this venture that you?
The venture that I,
create the book and everything.
well, the artist, the one who is the filmmaker, is also an artist, and she just kind of got it. The other one is a writer, and I don't know if this influenced her, but I really should tell you on now, it's dawning me what the real impact came several years later when my elder daughter said to me, Mom, and she had her husband with her, so I could tell it was going to be something important. She said, we will take care of the farm. They live, see, that's the other thing. I didn't know how long this farm and homestead will stay in the family because it can go on forever. I'm the fifth generation that lives there. But they both married men from another country, an Argentinian and an Italian. They have other lives. They live on both coasts. They don't live nearby. So it's very much up in the air, but at least she, one evening, felt that she could commit to it, to taking care of it. I had somebody, yes.
What did you learn about yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. What did I learn about myself while doing this? They say, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going, or you don't know how you're going. I'm not sure if I agree with that. But it's kind of been interesting there was an every other generation pattern that I discovered that I did not know. Writer, artist, writer, artist, which was kind of interesting. And I kind of identified with some of these women, their perseverance and risk-taking. I'm sorry to admit that's one of the features that I may have inherited. I do think there's something to inheritance, really do. Yes.
Are you familiar with the story about Mary, the half-sister of Queen Victoria, who came here and settled? Well, she ended up falling in love with a gardener and renouncing her English heritage and came here to Ross County.
No.
And she apparently, and her husband, they ended up near South Salem, Ohio, and her grave is there with an English flag on it saying English citizen. And she ended up passing away from TB in 1852 when she was, I think, in her late 30s. And her husband left.
Wow.
Some of the children left, her son stayed behind. And some of them, generations later, became officials in the Hillsborough school system.
Oh, I had no idea. I never heard of that. That's interesting. Yeah.
There's another story about what the British had planned for Ross County. And apparently they had lost up north and they were coming south and thought they were going to conquer most of the south. And so through the effort of independence and their plans to Chillicothe, there appear in their personal notes historically, and actually in a movie that was made about it, that they were going to turn Chillicothe into this vibrant intellectual center of English culture just on this side of the Mississippi. We were to be a representation of the English Empire's intellectual excellence.
Huh. All kinds of interesting things that we find out. Okay, anybody else?
I think the daughter's very brave, and I think she's smart, because I'm thinking about the original ancestors who had 3 children and then 9 more, who lived to adulthood, which was unheard
Yeah,
of
yeah.
at that time. So it's less than a year and a half.
Well, you've heard comments, or maybe I'm remembering something that I read about the history of our country. And there was a certain point in history where men especially were saying, what happened to our pioneer women? What happened to this stock? They become soft. There is something to that pioneer women. They were really tough. Really tough. You know, going back to your question about what did I learn, I think that I learned, wait a minute, where was I going with that? Gone, sorry. Okay, anything else? I better quit all my head. Yes.
I just wanted to add that I had read The Pioneer before I read your book.
Oh,
And I thought, oh, this is a companion book. Have you ever met David?
no.
I hope you do sometime.
Thank you.
As a conversation.
Oh,
Because it was like, oh.
yeah. Right. I did have some information that he didn't know about. That's, but you see, I don't think a family history would have made it into the archives. I don't know. Okay. Gosh, I thank everybody so much for your attention and your interest.
turning on the microphone. I was warned. Oh, just make sure that she turns off the lapel before you come here, because it would be horrendous, the feedback. So I'm proud of myself for remembering that. I thank you so much, Lynn. That was just so wonderful. Can we Lynn has very graciously agreed to be available if anyone would like to chat with her a little bit more or buy a copy of her book. She's going to be around the corner, just right outside the gallery where that she made mention of, that has all of the wonderful illustrations from her book and some of the photographs as well. So, yeah, I think now's time for the drawings, the door prizes. Yay, right? So get your tickets. Do you still have your tickets? And while you're looking for those tickets, if you've not yet made notes on that yellow piece of paper for us, we sure would appreciate your thoughts. So maybe you'll jot down the Okay, are you ready? Here's our first one. 4, 8, 8, 2, 3, 5. Yay, buddy won. Oh, you're gonna sign this right? Oh, okay, so we're not going to do the first 3, we'll just do the last 3 numbers, right? Because I think everybody's 4, 8, 8. So the last 3 numbers here are 2, 2, 6. Yay, okay. 2, 3, 8. All right, good thing. 2, 3, 0. 2, 2, 8. All right. 2, 3, 3. Sue's over here. 2, 4, 2. 4, 2, going once. Oh, Herb. Yay, Herb. All right. 2, 3, 2.
Yeah, the other chicken's okay. And I said, I know.
2, 0, 3. Oh, there we go. Okay. 1, 9, 7. We're giving them a workout here. 1, 9, 8. 2, 0, 0. Okay. 2, 1, 1. Okay. 2, 1, 9. 2, 1, 7. All right. 1, 9, 6. 1, 9, 6. Oh, there we go. Okay. 2, 4, 8. 2, 4, 1. 2, 1, 8. 5. We also have 2 of Lynn's books. 202. Oh, yeah, Teresa. 227. 227. No? Okay, we'll go with, how about 201? All right. All right, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again for coming out. I think this was just a lovely evening, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. And I look forward to seeing you next year, right? Same event, same place probably too.